that have men that don't commit are also the women that have 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Dr. Lurve, Australia's leading love and relationship coach.
I hear from women all the time, they're like, men just don't commit.
You are what you attract, right? It could be a really good excuse for some women to say, I can't find a man. They're intimidated by my wealth, or by my success, or my confidence, or my beauty. That's rubbish. No one likes people pleasers, not just women.
Do you find most men are emotionally unavailable?
No. A lot of men have learnt to be. You'll see people in relationships where they say infidelity is my be-all and end-all, and then they'll experience it and they'll come and say, I always thought this will be it, but I don't want it to be.
Dr. Lurve.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So there's a lot of confusion and conjecture around everything, but just personally, what do women really want?
I don't think they know. Honestly, I actually don't think they know anymore, which makes it very difficult for men, because if they don't know, then the men don't know.
Correct.
But I think there's a lot of confusion around how they should be, what they should be expecting, how they show up. Am I going to be independent? Do I need a man? Do I not need a man? I don't think everyone knows what they want or need, really. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of mixed messaging societal-wise, which can sort of draw people away from where their innate nature might take them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were talking earlier, like there's so many things that impact a person and what they want in a relationship, and sometimes it's family, sometimes it's society, cultural, even
friends.
Different parts, friends, right, social, depending where you live in Australia, what state, city, all of that contributes to sort of how you show up and what you need and what you should look like you need or want. Yeah, absolutely.
I think as well, the frustrating part is there's a lot of disconnect between, I find as a guy, between what women say they want and what they really want.
Absolutely. Yes, I think that's true. And I think as a woman, I think where does that come from? It comes from pressure of having to now be a successful, independent woman, but at the same time wanting to be in my feminine, be led by a male, hand over the reins, be able to be looked after. So there's a lot of internal conflict about how do I be independent and how do I be that woman that I strive to be, but at the same time being soft enough to have a man lead me. And I think that's where women are struggling.
Do you find more often it's because a lot of women, they don't attract the right man that allows them to drop in their feminine, or do you feel like a lot of time they're just stuck in a bit of a masculine frame?
I think it's a combination of both. I think men are confused as well because, it's quite attractive to have a woman that, is sort of in her own energy and doing what she loves. And if a woman does that from a place of her femininity, a masculine man can come in and she won't feel intimidated or feel like, he's going to take this away from me or I'm less than him. That's not what a masculine man does. So I think there's a combination of a couple of things, as the men not being too sure and the women not being too sure. And we're seeing this in relationships. We're seeing that relationships are confused. We don't know who is the leader and who's passive, who's aggressive, who's, there's so much confusion in relationships at the moment as to what role do we take. And I often say, look back in history. What worked, right? Because if you look at the landscape at the moment around relationships and interpersonal relationships, I don't know if we have a definition for anything anymore. Like we don't, there's so many differentiating types and identifications and there's just so much going on. And I think there's just so much confusion. But I feel like if we go back to basics, it always works.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think there's definitely multiple things. I mean, more women are getting educated, more women are earning more, they're getting career fulfillment, the cost of living's more, a lot of, I think the traditional one earner, that can work, but often can't work these days.
Expenses these days, probably not.
Yeah, so I think that forces a lot of women to have to go into the workforce, which I think, and for me, I love an independent woman. I don't love a boss babe, but I love an independent woman.
Yeah,
and that's a woman who's you know, she's got her stuff sorted. She's got her friends, she's got her interests, she's got the things, her passions and things she's into. But then it's like, at least you can come into that and provide more for them and not take that away from her. Like I'm big on, and I'd expect that back. Yeah. Because if I had someone that was codependent, I'd just get, independence is a big value for me. Right. Or freedom's one of my top values. So if I had someone that was codependent, I'd just get smothered.
Yeah, and I'd just be like, I'm out. Yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Where do men go wrong in relationships?
Look, I think for men, I think that what they need to understand is masculinity is not just about physical strength or how much money you have or how successful you are. Yes, there's a bit of a sexiness about that for women, and it could be quite transactional and really helpful in the beginning of a relationship. But really what a woman needs, and I'm talking about a woman that is comfortable with herself, that can be independent but still be vulnerable and soft. She's waiting for a man to be able to say, I got this. That, you know, it doesn't matter if you choose to do that and that's going to make you happy, I've got your back. We want the strength of a man behind us to be able for us to achieve that, to flourish, to feel soft, to break down when we need to, and for him to go, I've got you. Really, that's what we need. And so women that are independent but also become, you know, a boss babe or whatever it is, however you describe it. You know, a woman that is independent and then becomes hard, it's very hard for a man to come into that space and do his job, ultimately give her what she needs that she isn't aware of. Is that she's had so many experiences along her way that have created a hard shell around her, that really what she needs is a man to come in and soften her, and it's up to her to realise that I have to bring my walls down and that it's safe enough to do that. But, you know, there's an unpeeling around that. There's reasons why she's like that. You know, she's been hurt, she's been, you know, taken advantage of, she can't trust, and it might come from a really early place in her life. You know, fear of failure, fear of losing money, fear of losing everything, gone through a divorce, I will never do that again. So there's a lot of reasons why people show up like that, but I do feel like a man, don't be confused. Don't be confused. You have more testosterone for a reason. You know, you are built like that for a reason. We need you to stand strong. We need you to come forward. We need you to make decisions. Like, we need you in your masculine. When you are unsure of your masculine, it makes us unsure.
100%.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I always have a debate with a lot of my female friends who are pretty successful. Yeah. And they always go, why can't I find like that successful, almost like masculine man? Why doesn't he attracted to me? They'll be like, I'm attractive, or I go to the gym, I earn good money, I'm smart. And I sort of say to them, it's because like a real masculine man is looking for the softness, nurturing and softness of a feminine. He's not looking for his counterpart.
No, he's not looking for a buddy.
No, he's not. He's got mates.
Yeah. He doesn't want a mate.
Most of the time he's got enough mates. Yeah. It's like he's not attracted to his mates.
Yeah.
It's
he might be, but most of the men that I know aren't. Yeah.
We are in Sydney. Yeah.
Depends where you're from. You're from Perth. Is that where it happens? Or it doesn't happen?
It's not as prevalent in areas. It's a bit more hush. Okay. It's a bit more taboo. Yeah. So, and I sort of say them like often, like, and a lot of those women, they think, when I speak, the ones I speak to anecdotally, they're like, oh, but these guys are intimidated. It's like, they're not intimidated. No. They're just not. There's no polarity.
They're not intimidated.
There's no polarity. They're not intimidated. It's like you're trying to become the man that you want to be with. And they just don't understand what those sort of guys
they
really
are.
want.
They're replacing what they want from a man in sort of their own behaviours and actions. And I think you're right. Men aren't intimidated. I feel like it could be a really good excuse for some women to say, I can't find a man. They're intimidated by my wealth or by my success or my confidence or my beauty. That's rubbish. All men love beautiful women.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? That's rubbish. You can't be too beautiful. But what you can be is you could be beautiful and too hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and combative.
Yeah. So, you know, standoffish. It doesn't mean you're available for every man that comes along. But what it means is that it's almost like a man can sense a woman when she's in her feminine essence. when she's relaxed, her shoulders are down, she's breathing, you know, deep, she's not shallow breathing. Like it's almost instinctual. And we go back to like being in tribes, you know, men could sniff us out, you know.
And women could sniff us out.
Right. And we knew like he was the bloke that we needed. He was going to go hunt for us and keep us alive. Like we want him. And so like our pheromones like are sort of like floating around and he's like, definitely. I'll have her and have kids with her, right? But I think that's what it is. It's not, definitely. You know, if we go back to tribal, like the tribal era, you were the queen or the matriarch of that village. The man didn't find you unattractive or too strong. He found you attractive. You were maternal. You were looking after the tribe in a different way, and you let him look after the tribe. So you're right. If you're meeting the man at the same level as in masculinity, there is no polarity, and it doesn't work.
No, definitely.
It doesn't work.
Always need polarity.
Absolutely.
Do you find most men are emotionally unavailable?
No.
No.
I think a lot of men have learnt to be. I don't think that they can't. They don't have it in them.
Where do you reckon it comes from?
Being shut down. Sometimes relationships. So, you know, from what I've seen is that I've seen instances of women not giving men the opportunity to be emotional, like seeing it as a weakness. This is my space. I should be emotional. You shouldn't be.
Is it okay for men to cry?
Absolutely.
In front of their partner?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not a weakness. And a lot of men would say, I don't cry, or I won't show her that because she'll think I'm weak. Absolutely not. It takes probably more strength to shed a tear in front of your partner and say, this is what I'm feeling, than it is to hide it.
Are there caveats around that though?
Is there...
Like caveats around, like, for example, if he was doing it very regularly, or if he was just, is it a bit conditional or circumstantial?
Look, if you've got a man, if a woman is with a man and he is a crybaby, it's going to be a turn off, right? It's actually like she doesn't want to mother somebody.
No,
she might,
some might,
right?
Yeah, some
she might because that's
Yeah.
how she feels significant. Is that let me mother him, and it also gives her a sense of control. Okay, because control means safety.
Yeah, exactly right.
Right, but if you are looking for a woman that is sure of herself, and she might help you through the first few instances of tears, but the rest is going to be up to you to go like, why am I feeling like this? Now, there could be mental health reasons, there could be other reasons why that's happening, but her expectation would be do something about it.
100%,
right?
yeah.
Because the man, for a woman, the man needs to take action.
If he's stuck in freeze mode for too long, she'll be going.
She's like, like
it's not
you're not doing something about this. It's fine to be upset. It's fine to have, your mental health to be compromised at times in life. It's fine to be down and stuck in a place for a little while because we all get there sometimes, but it's not okay to stay there. And so what the woman wants to see is that when he has those bouts of, I've had women that have had men that are very successful and lost everything, whether it's a business or something, and they've gone through a period of shit, like, who am I? What do I do? I'm lost. I've got to find myself again. But they're with those men still because those men went through that and they sort of plateaued through that time. But in that time, they'll also go, okay, what am I going to do about it? Okay? So it's not getting kicked and stay down. It's how do you go from there to there? Like, what action are you going to take? And as a woman, we want men that are action takers. We really do.
And men really appreciate, I feel like most men would really appreciate a woman who is there for him when he's down there.
Absolutely.
As well. Because, you can lose it all.
You can.
I've lost it all.
Yeah.
Like 7 years ago. I went
too.
and scaled something like ambitious, did something, scaled up when I was a bit younger, went a bit too reckless, got stitched up, lost a lot.
Yeah.
And if I was like, and I'm still like, you're still the same person. You just went through something.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And then you just you learn your lessons, you go through it, you rebuild, and then you're better off than ever.
Yeah, and you're not the same person because you've learnt from that. Yeah. So you're probably better.
You are better.
At the expense of that.
Of course.
But if you're with someone, the right person will say, you gave it a go, it didn't work, what's next? Let me help you. What are we going to do? What do you need from me? Okay? Not, I'm exiting because, my life doesn't look the same right now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to take a little dip in lifestyle.
Yeah.
Just transiently.
Yeah.
While this person rebuilds. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when a person has had a particular lifestyle or a particular way of doing life and intimately it's not like that, they also like the lifestyle they had before.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they've got that drive and motivation and they're willing, they'll take the action to get back up there.
How can a guy pick a woman who's all about the money?
How can he pick? I think it's just that, is that sometimes you don't know straight away. And sometimes as a man, you like to wine and dine, you know, someone when you're taking them on a date. And as a woman, you probably expect to be a bit wine and dine, like, you know, take me for a date or a coffee or a dinner or whatever it is. But I think over time, you start to notice the expectation is a lot more transactional. And you'll see that her behaviour is, well, I'm not going to be maybe intimate with you unless I get, like, there's almost like becomes this transactional thing happening. So, you know, well, you didn't spoil me this week or I didn't get something, well, I'll withhold intimacy from you. And we sort of almost, well, some of us coaches call this almost like being prostituting our intimacy out, is that if you give me this, then I'll give you that.
Treat him like a dog.
Yeah, well, and that's not what relationships are about. You know, we're sexual beings, and that is almost like a right in a relationship, that we have that flow of intimacy between the both of us. It's not conditional on if you get a handbag, a dinner, a trip somewhere, we go first class. Yeah, it makes sex better, but like it happens regardless. Like you should be intimate regardless. So then when we were talking about before, when you're up here and then all of a sudden you're down here, this is when they need the most intimacy. So you can go back up there.
Of course.
Right? And the ones that are there for just this, when they're here, they're like, you know, this doesn't work for me. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
What are some hidden red flags women should look for with men?
Hidden red flags.
Like nuanced stuff.
So little things like, you know, we go to dinner and he's forgotten his wallet.
What about Apple Pay?
Well,
He's
exactly.
uninstalled it.
Well, it's uninstalled and I don't have any cards on my phone. So it's like, oh, you know,
Comes up with a
it's not
conspiracy
working.
theory
I'm
about
sorry.
that one.
Yeah, right. So things like that. It might be that he constantly talks about an ex-partner on a date, clearly not over it. Another red flag would be that he talks very ill of an ex-partner. Obviously not over it, but still not taking responsibility over that relationship. Not all relationships work and it takes two to tango. And just like he's talking about her in an ill way is the same way he'll do that for you. So not respecting the boundaries of the ex relationship is also a red flag. Probably listening is going to be a given. So if you're at a table having dinner and he's not a very good listener, or he's not attentive, or he's not present, and it's all about him. So this works for, like, either way. So, you know, if he's taking over the conversation, you can't get a word in, he's not interested or he doesn't ask questions is another sort of indicator that he may be a little bit selfish in a relationship if you were going to get into a relationship with him. Because when you're meeting someone, you want to know about them. You're getting to know them. So you're going to ask questions. Hey, what do you do for work? Do you have kids? What are your hobbies? What do you like to eat? Have you been there? Do you travel? Whatever it is. And if he's constantly just talking about what he's done, or she's constantly talking about what she's done, you'll leave that encounter feeling like shit because you haven't shared anything.
Exactly right.
Right? So if you feel like you haven't shared anything or haven't been heard, that's a major red flag. Okay. Yeah, and they're just little things you can look for. Okay.
How do you spot a narcissist?
Oh, wow, pretty much like that. Talk the whole time about themselves. That's the first indicator. You know what? I will say it's difficult in a one-on-one scenario, a bit easier in a group scenario because a narcissist is always somebody that will take over the crowd, demand the attention, negate anyone else's sort of experience of what's going on at the moment. You know, his story's better or her story's better, or interrupting, not letting people finish a sentence. So you probably can see it a little bit more in a group setting. When it's one-on-one, he or she is wooing you and telling you everything you want to hear, and that's intoxicating.
Definitely.
Unfortunately. And it's after a couple of probably months or other encounters that you start to learn that doesn't feel right.
Definitely. I feel also like a little thing probably women should look for is like how the guy treats the staff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like a
if he's
waitress
treating like you're the fucking help.
Yeah.
It's like, nah.
Yeah.
I like for me, because I was back in uni days, I was in hospo as well. So I think because you do time in hospo, like you respect that, you know, no matter who someone is, not like you just turn the charm on if someone's successful or beautiful.
Absolutely.
And they're just like these charismatic, most like really good narcissists that are very charismatic. They're pretty convincing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
I think will get bought
in. And they won't, if they feel someone can't serve them, i.e. the help or whatever, and they'll treat, and you see them treat them like that, and they treat them like shit, I think that's already...
Absolutely. That's a really good red flag. Also, if you're around them and you hear how they speak on the phone to their employees, colleagues, if they're in a position of power, you will see the way that they speak to people that work for them as well. So the demands and the way that they, you know, put them down or make them feel like rubbish because they weren't good enough or didn't do it properly. You're right, absolutely. But if you're at a restaurant and there's a waitress or a waiter that comes and, you know, may have got something wrong or added ice when you had no ice, you know, my apologies, sir, I'll get you another drink. God, you can't do anything right around it, whatever it is.
And that goes both ways.
Absolutely.
Men and women.
Men and women.
I think respect, but also like something I see in women as well, like a woman who's flexible or adaptable is amazing.
Yeah.
A woman who's like highly rigid, especially she likes nice things, she's highly rigid. It's like, nah, man. Yeah. Because like they're very hard to keep happy.
Well, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, life isn't rigid. You know, it's fluid. Things happen. You can't determine what's going to happen in business, how the relationship's going to go, what's going to happen in family, other relationships that impact you in your relationship. So you need the flexibility. And that's why I'm saying to you that a woman that's in her feminine will be flexible. It's only the ones that have balls that they shouldn't are inflexible.
Yeah.
Most of the time,
you always go check for those.
We do the check on the way in. Stand at the door. Right, you sit on that side and you go on that side.
And you always have to reach around just in case they're tucked away.
Bend over. No, we don't say that at all. Actually,
that's if they're real dubious and they pass the first two tests. Right.
Yeah.
So why don't men commit?
They do. What do you mean, why don't men commit?
I hear from women all the time, they're like, men just don't commit.
What I've found, and it's not always the case, that a lot of the time the women that have men that don't commit are also the women that have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Okay. So you are what you attract, right?
Sure.
So if you look closer to the women that are saying that men don't commit, you might find they're the women that are scared of losing their independence, fearful of being taken advantage of, not sure about who they are in a relationship. And so they will attract men that don't want to commit. And it just reinforces their idea about men.
Sometimes they're probably waiting for a potential better option. Just as he might be
just
as well.
in case.
Yeah,
just in case. And what it does, it leaves them lonely. Like it leaves them looking for the next best thing, which says something about the person because like, well, why isn't it that you don't want connection? And why do you want this transaction rather than going to that deeper place of, you know, because when you're in a relationship, your shit comes out. Like that's where your shit comes out and people avoid that. Like I know for me in relationships and my clients, they, you know, our traumas come out in relationships. That's when it surfaces. That's when your weaknesses come out and you go, shit, I haven't dealt with that. And I thought I did. And it takes work. Yeah.
In terms of like the general dating market, what are the struggles that you sort of see for men these days?
What are the struggles I see for men these days? I'll tell you the complaints that I get.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, is that they feel like women, and women say the same thing actually, that everything is replaceable. It's a swipe left or a swipe right. And so a lot of people, there's a lot of uncertainty around relationships. So a lot of men are saying, well, you know, how significant can I be for this person? Like in a minute, she could change her mind and just meet someone else around, or could have a lineup of people waiting on Instagram or on Tinder of potential partners. So there is this culture of, it's easily replaced.
Like illusion of options.
Yeah, it is an illusion. It's not. They're not real options. If they were, you would have taken them. They wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have a list. Let us face it. Yeah.
Do you find dating apps work?
They can if you use them properly.
How would
so
you
if you are that person going into the dating game with an idea or a narrative that no men commit, you're going to get men that just want to have sex, right? They're looking for a good time. If you are going onto a dating app and you are seriously ready for a relationship, you are going to get some doozies, and you might get one good 1 out of 10. You'll get that out there anyway, really. Not every man you meet out in real life is going to be the right person. So online's just the same. I've had clients that have been married from, different dating apps, and they are still together with children. I mean, some of our celebrities on TV have met their partners,
through shows.
Yeah, right. Through online.
Does work. Normally does. Longevity is not an amazing thing.
But it can work if you're using it right. Yeah. So, and I'm talking about the right profile being like, really don't catfish.
Yeah.
You're going to show up as someone you're not. You're going to get someone that you don't expect or want.
Don't use too much filter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just dial back.
And don't filter your words. Like if you're really a bookworm, be honest. Don't say you party every weekend when you don't.
Yeah. You need authenticity is a big thing.
Yeah.
Don't think about what people want. Just be yourself.
And I think that's what it is. It's you're not an advertisement. Yeah. You're not like, hey, I've got bells and whistles and I do this as well. You can do that, but you're not going to get. If you're looking for an authentic relationship, you need to show up authentically. It's that simple.
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like Instagram drives that though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you'll get a lot more like followers, likes if you've got the bells and whistles. Yeah. Absolutely. The filters are great. I love the Instagram filters. So I'm the first
I haven't figured out how to use them.
I'll show you today.
I'm in that age. I need to.
Well, since you're in Sydney, we're all brilliant at it here. So.
I'm moving. Oh, God. So I heard you mention this word on your feed. I thought it's interesting. So what's phubbing?
Oh, what? What did you get from it?
So from my understanding, is it just when you're like snubbing someone off and just being on your phone?
Yeah.
Is that in respect to phubbing? Could just be between friends, family, date, or anything like that?
Yeah. So
I think it's incredibly common.
Yeah, we do it all the time. You go to a restaurant and how many people are on their phone at a dinner table? I love people watching. So I will say to you though, I was at the Hunter Valley over the weekend and I saw no phubbing.
Really? What do you attribute that to?
And I don't know if it's the environment. Remember we were saying that different geographical areas are like, have different expectations, or it is an interactive experience. And it might have been because we were, wine tasting, cheese tasting, chocolate pairing. We were doing things. We're engaged. Yeah. And I went, you know what? That's really awesome. I think that is probably something we could probably do more of in our lifetime, in our life with our partners and friends, is do engaging things. And I feel like what we're doing, we're sitting, we come together as a group, we sit at a table and we feel like we're being social or we're engaging, but we're really not. We're engaging in social media while we have company.
Which is ridiculous, but we all do it.
Yeah.
I'm terrible.
We all do it. Yeah, so I think, and that's what it is. It's definitely just you're not present. You're not present, and it's part of our culture. I'm watching children and teenagers do the same thing. Yeah. They don't even care if they don't see each other in person anymore.
It's hilarious when you see it on dates. When you see Lazy City people watching and people on dates. One thing is, I think, just for family, whatever, but the when people are actually on dates and they're both on the phone.
Well, Dr. Love, when she goes to dinner, like I'm people watching and I'm watching those people on dates because I'm doing like market research, right?
Can you if you watch a couple, can you pick if they're a first date, early phases,
usually
middle of the road?
Yeah, usually how engaged they are. I like to almost guess how sexually intimate they are, like what that looks like for them. You can tell in body language and how many touches they have over the table at any one time. Does he pull out the chair for her? Is, you know, what type of, is her arms like this, or is she rolling her eyes, you know, or is he like, it's interesting.
Just disengaged or?
But I had a couple of times, I think, so in Sydney last week when I had dinner, we were at a pretty nice restaurant in George Street, and I watched 2 tables, and one table the woman was on the phone and the man was just looking, having a drink, and the other table they were both on the phone. And I thought, that's a really nice dinner.
Welcome to Sydney.
It's like, what the hell? Like, you could do that just at home.
Exactly.
Like, I'll Uber Eats my, you know, linguine and just stay on the phone.
Yeah,
like,
exactly
what's the
right.
point?
You might as well.
And I've got it dressed up. Like, he's looking at the phone. Look at me. You know, I went all this effort.
He's looking at someone else.
Look at me. You know, it's like.
In terms of like people pleasing is a big, and nice guys and people pleasing is a big thing. So why don't women like nice guys?
They do.
Okay. Why don't women like people pleasers?
No one likes people pleasers, not just women.
True.
Because as a man, if you think about it, if you had a woman that was a people pleaser, what would that mean for you watching that?
As a man, if you had a woman as a people pleaser?
If your woman was a people pleaser.
Just have no boundaries. People just get to do it,
Yeah.
leverage her as they will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's no respect. There's she's not totally yours.
Exactly.
Even if she's not, there's no infidelity or anything like that. It's just they just get dragged by everyone.
Right.
And
then
that's eventually
exactly
you got to deal with the collateral damage.
Yeah. So both men and women feel the same around people pleasing, and it's unfortunately the person that is the people pleaser that has a collateral damage has to deal with the repercussions of it. So it would take her away from the relationship if you're in a relationship with her, if she's a people pleaser, because you're pleasing everyone else. But really, when I talk about a couple, the first person that should be pleased is the relationship in the couple bubble. So I always put the 2 people in a bubble, and I say, you guys are in, like, you know, those snow domes. This is your world. And it becomes you please each other first, and every other third party out of the bubble is second. And that includes children, right? So when
you put the relationship above
before the children.
Really?
Absolutely. The kids will come and go. They'll stay. You're lucky to have kids these days with you till they're 14. By that time, I'm not saying they physically leave the house, but emotionally, mentally, they're checked out with their friends. Okay, what are you left with if you haven't put that first? When you think about parenting and a relationship, what goes on in the bubble is first, because you guys make the decision around what happens for that child. You guys decide first together what goes on in the family. So the bubble always comes first. Everything outside of that comes second.
Interesting. How do you maintain intimacy when the kids are young?
Laundry, kitchen, no. You make it happen. It's a priority.
The shed?
Wherever you can.
The shed's a good spot.
The shed, he's getting the lawnmower out. This is my chance. And like you run out the back.
He's got the hammer. I'm on.
And you know, a man with a hammer is quite sexy. So like I'm out there, he's doing the Bagola, I'll be there in a second, babe.
All right, noted. I'm going to hardware shop after this. You see me walk around.
Yeah, the hammer. It's foreplay. It's not a weapon.
As long as you bail me out from the police station later on.
I'll write the psych report. But you know what? If the couple come first in the bubble, you'll find time.
Yeah.
Okay? So what I always say to new parents is that the child needs to fit into your schedule. You don't fit into the child's schedule. So if you want the child to sleep at 2 p.m, because your partner is home from work at 2 p.m. and you want 2 hours together, do it. Make the child fit into your life. The child knows no better, right? You give it the routine that suits you, and so be it. Make it happen.
It's got to schedule things in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pivoting to cheating. So in 2024, how would you define cheating?
Common. Very common.
Common. And what sort of behaviours or acts would be under that umbrella?
Well, there's so many forms of cheating, you know, emotional cheating.
Tell me about that.
Financial cheating, intimate, like sexual cheating. So when you talk
financial cheating?
Financial cheating may be where you're using funds from a family, like if you've got a partner and you've got funds and you're hiding funds that they don't know of, or you've made investments they don't know of. So it's almost like you...
Like a transparency.
Yes, there is transparency as far as you are aware, but then you find out that they're investing somewhere else that you didn't know about.
Okay.
Right? So there's that, you know, they're not being honest around financial transactions. You know, it could be, you know, that they're blowing their money and they're gambling and they haven't told you. And yes, it's a habit and it can be an addiction, but there's still no transparency around where the money's going. So there's financial cheating.
Okay. What about emotional cheating?
Emotional cheating. It could be that, you know, you've connected with someone online and you're having a conversation with somebody that ends up being your go-to person, your first person to go to when you're talking about how you're feeling. And it might be that you go to that person to talk about how crap your relationship is or how upset you are with your partner or what's going on in your life. And that is emotional cheating because you're relying on someone outside of the couple bubble, a third party, to soothe you. And sometimes that type of relationship is worse than, you know, going to the local brothel and having a transactional sexual experience because there is an emotional connection. And then there's obviously the physical stuff. Yeah.
Do you find rich men get cheated on more? No.
A lot of people will say yes because they are out and about, they're flying, they're busy, they're doing so many hours. But when you are in a committed relation, you know, if that rich man, and I don't know if actual finance has anything to do with this really. It's personality, it's relationship type. There's so many other variables to, like, I know rich people that are, you know, running around in your local Reeboks and your stubbies and like you wouldn't even pick them. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, do we have an idea of a rich guy being, you know, a silver fox in a suit, in a Ferrari and a jet and flying? Like, is that like, because there's 24-year-old billionaires, like millionaires,
exactly right,
that are sitting on a laptop doing some type of financial transaction that's going to make them $60,000 today. You know, like the look and the feel of a rich man is very different. Very different.
I feel like it's probably more for a rich man who really puts his wealth out there. That's one thing, which is very different to the guy who runs around the Reeboks. So here, the guy who runs around in the Reeboks is going to attract a different person than the guy who flaunts it.
Maybe,
and I think the other element is how busy they are.
So busy, but you don't have to be rich to be busy.
No, exactly right. Exactly right.
So
or how unavailable they are for the needs.
Right. So it's not rich men that get cheated on more. It's unavailable men, whether they've got money or not. Because I know men that don't have money that are unavailable, emotionally unavailable. They'll get busy doing other things. They'll be with their mates. They'll have a hobby that they're, you know, not getting paid for, and it will take up all of their time. So I think it's more. It's not the money. The money attracts people, yes.
A certain type, yeah.
Right? The money does attract people, a certain type, but it's up to the man. Like, so you're saying, like, that man may not be for you then, right? They may be for somebody else. But if the man wants a relationship with somebody, he will attract the woman that he wants, regardless of how much money he has. He could have no money and get the woman and have a lot of money and not get the woman. You know, there's a lot of rich men that don't have the woman that they want.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, that they don't know how to attract her. I know from some of my experiences that, you know, a very rich man would say, I don't want to be with you because I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to be unavailable for you. I can't be there. So they go, you know, what's the point? Who's going to be with me? I'm in the country 4 days a month. Yeah. Rather than, you know, that's like you've given up before you've tried. Because what if you might meet the right woman that keeps you in the country 24 days a month?
Yeah.
You're rich enough to do that.
And she's worth it.
Right? Yeah. Definitely. So they're the type of men that are like the women we spoke about before. Is someone going to come in here and, you know, interfere with lifestyle, independence, funding, finance? Will I lose it? Like, they may have other fears around being with somebody.
Definitely. Who do you find cheats more, men or women?
Right now, it doesn't matter.
It's pretty split even down the middle.
Yeah. Right now, it's actually it's changed a lot. The landscape's changed. Before, you would have seen very much so, 70% men.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I reckon maybe 60-40, but yeah.
Men to women?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think women have got a lot more accessibility
Absolutely
now than what they used to have.
Well, you think about it. We, many, many years ago, we didn't really leave the home.
Yeah.
Or homemakers, right?
Yeah.
We did the child rearing, the men went out to work, they had access to other people, whereas we really didn't. And if we did work, we went into jobs that were family friendly and, sort of supported us being mums. And I'm not saying that's right, that just traditionally that's just what happened.
Mums
evolved. That's how
Mums or the milkman, that was
Yeah.
your options.
Yeah, right.
The milkman was no good.
Yeah, if your husband's got dark hair and your child's born with blonde hair, you started to ask, were you the milkman's son?
Yeah.
We said that about my brother growing up, actually. Poor mum. But yeah, I think the accessibility is very different.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you think a relationship can recover if there's infidelity?
Yeah, it can. It can. It's not easy. It depends on how the infidelity happened and where, how, why, all those other factors, how long.
Different. And do you find it, continue?
Yeah, if it was like, a one-off scenario, never happened, drunken night and had sex with a worker or something, could be very different to somebody experiencing an affair and being with someone for 3 years and being intimate and having emotional attachment. There's a lot of different processes around that, but it's not easy. Some people are like, you'll see people in relationships where they say infidelity is my be all and end all. That is it. Once they have cheated, I'm out of there. And then they'll experience it and they'll come and say, I always thought this will be it, but I don't want it to be. And I want to work through it and I want to save the relationship. But it does take two to tango. You can't have one person fix what's going on.
Alternatively, they keep together, then the person who got cheated on just punishes them.
Well, and that's probably part of, right?
Yeah.
So part of the healing process around infidelity is if you are going to work on this, there will be a time where we say the hurt partner puts you in the dog box for a bit, right? Because they're hurt and that's the consequence of your behaviour. But then there comes a time where you've got to open the dog box and go, okay, you did the wrong thing. I'm not going to keep bringing it up. If I do, it's going to be, I just need clarification, but it's not, I'm going to keep punishing you the rest of your life because you did this to me. It's, if you are going to accept that you are going to work on this and be in this relationship, you accept wholly and fully that they've done the wrong thing and you're willing to let it go. You don't have to forget it. And it will probably hurt for a long time, but you're committed to the relationship today. And it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of courage to be able to say, you know what, I got to put that behind me and I trust that they won't do it again because they've just broken your trust. How do you say, I trust that they won't do it again? You don't.
It's a hard thing to rebuild.
Yeah.
If you're early days dating someone and you start to male or female and you figure out they've had a significant amount of childhood trauma, like a very chaotic upbringing, family life's a shit show, do you feel like you can still have a successful relationship with them?
If they've done the work, yes.
What's the work?
So if they've looked at the trauma, if they've dealt with some of the stuff that comes up, I would expect that when you're an adult, a lot of that trauma would have had already come up in some aspects of your life, friendships, work, other relationships, parents, grief if you've lost family along the way because of being estranged or abuse or whatever it is. If someone has actually devolved into the trauma that they've come from and unpeeled that and work out what it is that it means for them, because you got to remember a lot of the trauma work, the trauma that's gone on in our lives informs the way that we form attachments. Yeah. And so, if your attachment style is codependent, or if it's very needy, or if it's absent, why is that?
Is absent avoidant?
Yeah.
Same thing, okay.
Yeah, you're avoidant. So why is that? Are you avoidant because of safety, fear? Where does that come from? So what you'll find is that someone that hasn't dealt with trauma, and not necessarily just childhood trauma, we're talking about even trauma from adult relationships, infidelity, domestic violence, abandonment, when you wake up and your partner's just decided to leave and you don't have any answers why, they're traumas that still inform you as an adult of your next relationship and how you interact with your next person. So we're forever unpeeling our traumas, right? Whether they're our big, heavy traumas that we've had, through childhood, and, some are awful. You've got sexual abuse, you've got physical abuse, you've got abandonment for children that have been left and neglected, and you've got neglect. And then you've got traumas through our teenage years, and some are, bullying and all of that sort of stuff. So have we dealt with them along the way? And have we been able to process them and work out what it means for us, and how are we reacting because of that event? And it's not until then that we start to do we be present in our relationships. So if someone has had a lot of chaos in their life, and that they have been avoidant around dealing with it, and they have just swept it under the carpet, I promise you it's coming out in your relationship.
Because a lot of people you can be attracted to them. They're nice. They're good people.
Yep.
And that's why it gets under the radar, because they just haven't done that work, and they don't have the self-awareness, and it doesn't always it's not always just totally visible right at the start, unless you start.
Well, they will come up in the
questions.
relationships, right? Sure. So that's what happens. Something will happen in a relationship, and you'll trigger them, and they've got this massive reaction. You're like, hey, where did that come from? And then obviously it opens a conversation saying, you know what, I was a bit confused by your reaction. Where did that come from? I don't get it. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. Or they don't want to talk about it. Or it's nothing. I was having a bad day.
Blow it off,
under the carpet. Yeah. But it's going to come up again.
Put that one in the bank.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And it just never gets dealt with. So it's forever, I don't care what age you are forever unpeeling what's going on in your life. Forever.
I agree. What are some deep questions you can ask to connect with a partner?
A partner that you're with?
Let's just say early stages dating.
Yeah. Look, you want to get to know them, it might be, you might want to know some deep questions about their past relationship history, what is something that you feel like didn't work for you in your past relationship that you could do better?
At what point would you ask that?
So you're in a relationship, you don't, that's not a first date question. Okay.
So
that's you're together.
The energy from first date, what's the energy? What should the energy be around the first date?
First date is, I want to know everything about you.
Yeah?
Just remember, first date is get curious.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to know about you. Tell me all about you. What do you like? This is what I'm like. We want to know, what have we got in common, right? Are our values the same? Do we enjoy travel? Because if I enjoy travel and you hate it, this is not going to work, because I travel 4 times a year, right? And it'd be shit not to have the experience with you. It's not that, I need you with me, but I want you to experience that with me. I want to share the meals with you. I want to jump on the plane. I want to bungee jump. I want to be able to laugh and sit on our rocking chairs when we're older and tell our grandkids how we did all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if you are not that person, then you're not for me, and I'll figure that out very quickly. So the first few dates are very much around, are we going to be mates, or are we going to be more than that? Okay, because you might just meet a good friend. Okay, you know what? Or you might just meet someone that's going to be an acquaintance, or just nothing at all, and that's okay. You're not going to like everyone you meet, and not everyone's going to like you. And that's where the people pleasing comes in, right?
Yeah.
If you're a people pleaser, you're going to turn around and say to the other person everything they want to hear. Yeah, I travel. Yeah, I love Asian food. I love going to, and
I love it.
Yeah, right. And you're
what do you like?
Oh my God, you are like my soulmate.
Yeah.
And you get involved with this person because they've told you everything that you want to hear. They're either a narcissist or a people pleaser.
Oh my God,
and then you work it out very quickly that they don't like to travel. And then eventually you're traveling on your own. You're thinking, I don't want this. I don't want this. So first couple of dates, curiosity. You're getting curious about each other. Later in the relationship, when you're together, right, and you've been together a few months and you're comfortable and you are in a dead set relationship, it's not like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They're the questions that you go, if you look back at your relationship, what do you reckon you could have done better? Yeah. How do you reckon that could impact us? What didn't work for you? What do you reckon we could do different this time?
What are your values? What do you want from life?
Yeah, what do you love? What do you foresee happening in the future? What do you see us being You know, they're the deeper questions that you get. You know, what do you want to learn? Is there something that you've always wanted to do that you don't have the courage to do that I could help you with? You know, those type of things, yeah? Like, because if you're with a person and you've always wanted to do something and they're your rock and you go, you know what, I've always really wanted to go to India, but I've been really, I haven't been intimidated by it. I wasn't sure of going on my own, and you're like, you know what, let's do it. Let's book it. And we'll do it together.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck yes, like, this is my person.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
Yeah, right. Like,
definitely.
so that's one of my fears. We're going to help me through it. So like when you're doing questions like that, like you're just opening up this whole space of trust, and like I can rely on you and you're my person and we're ride or die and we're doing this.
And it's a massive filtering process. Because if they're not, they'll go, oh, cool. I understand where they're at.
Yeah.
We're not going to waste another
Yeah.
6 months together.
Yeah. And some people are not into going deep. And if you are into going deep, well, those people are just not for you. But I would rather know early on, because I know for me, I'm very deep. Like I want to know everything. I want to know your blood type. I want to know like what you ate yesterday. Like did you go to the toilet? Your number two's were they runny today? Like how are you going? Like you know, like I want to know
what is your favourite
everything.
blood type? If you're not no, you can get the fuck out of here.
You know, I want to know everything.
I want to give her. You know, you get her out.
But you know, like. I want to do life with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I want to have experiences. So if you're the type of person that is mediocre, can't make a decision,
lukewarm.
Yeah, lukewarm, 1 foot in, 1 foot out about everything, is happy just to have a job and get their wage at the end of the week, that's cool.
They're not excited.
It's just not for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited. I'm excited about everything. You know, I'm excited about trying some cheese at Unavailable. I was so excited. You know, I was going to like so excited. And I could go there anytime I want, right?
I could do.
But it's like, you know, but it's the experiences, you know, they're the things that we take with us.
And that's what we want in friendships as well.
Yeah.
You want people like characters, people who've got personality.
Yeah.
A bit polarising on issues, even if you don't think the same.
Yeah, you don't need to be, because that's what gets good conversation. Like even for your partner, you don't have to always agree. No, that gives you good debate. You don't have to agree. We can agree to disagree. But what you must agree on is that your values are the same. You must agree on a vision for the relationship. You may have individual visions for yourself, like I foresee myself doing this in my career or whatever, but you must agree on the relationship vision, and you must agree on your values. It won't work otherwise.
Definitely. And the phases of relationship, from one thing's being a couple, we might be amazing as a couple, want to travel, do this and this, but then someone might go, I don't want kids. And the other one's like, I do.
Absolutely.
And then they go, put their head in the sand and think, oh, but we're just so good as a couple. And then they hit to an age that's like, but I want to have kids. And it's like, I told you I didn't want to have kids.
Yeah.
And they just didn't listen.
They didn't.
Like early enough. And then they've just wasted.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you why. They stay there in the hope of I can change his or her mind.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got such a good relationship that they wouldn't want to let that go. So in the hope that they feel like in the next 2-3 years, they're loving this relationship so much that they'll just give in or they'll change their mind. I will always say to people is listen to their words, not always their actions. And so when someone is saying to you in a relationship, I don't want a commitment, I just want something casual, or I don't want kids, I just want a relationship, listen to the words.
Not the actions.
Because I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people that say this is because they set you up. They set themselves up for an escape. I don't want a committed relationship, but they look like they want a committed relationship. They're being boyfriend and girlfriend, right? They're doing all the relationship-y stuff, and then 4 months, 5 months, a year down the track, they said, "But I told you I didn't want a relationship."
It's get out of jail free card.
Right.
If it goes good, I'll go in. So patting the floor. Yeah.
Right. So you want to get really clear in the beginning. If they've said to you, look, I don't want a relationship, and you feel like it's getting relationship-y, you need to have the conversation of, like, I know you said you didn't want a relationship. This feels very relationship. What is this? Because I need to be clear and I want to know. And you might feel weird, like people are like, oh, I feel weird asking that. I said, but why would you? It would feel weirder doing another 2 or 3 years like this, and in somebody's eyes in that relationship, you weren't in a relationship.
And you revisit it again anyway.
And you've wasted 2 years because you thought you were in a relationship, but they've told you in the beginning they're not. You've made an assumption that you are. So why don't you just ask the question? It'll save a lot of grief later. So listen to their words initially in the beginning. Actions mean a lot in a relationship. Yeah, there's act of service, how you show up, that's important. But initially when they're saying, I don't want a relationship, I don't want children, listen to those words because they will always come back to them.
Interesting. Circling back to dating in the early phases, when should two people sleep together? Is there a problem straight away if there's the chemistry?
There isn't a problem straight away if there's chemistry. What I do find though, if you can have a few dates, 2-3 dates before you go there, it depends what you're looking for, right? If you're going into the first date just because you're happy to have someone to hang out with and you just want like a friends with benefit type of situation, go for it. If you're going on a first date because you want a relationship, I'd say why don't you get curious about the person first before sleeping with them to see if you even like them, to see if you have anything in common, and then go there. I think 3 dates is good usually from like my market research.
That's my number. I agree with you. Third date.
By third date, you know.
Fourth, yeah.
By about the third date, you sort of know like this. I could do like some time with this person. I don't know if it's forever, but I definitely could probably see myself with this person dating.
Yeah. In my experience, any time it's been first date or straight away, which is over my years in the past.
Yeah.
Like was quite a few.
Yeah.
Like it was always just there was no longevity. There's no Whereas like when I actually pivoted, I said, look, put a rule on not till the third date.
Yeah.
Third date was almost for me. It's like at least get to know them.
Yeah.
Because quite often, if you are wide, like I used to be, I was wide before. You're so sexually wide.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the thing is, you got to realize that once you actually, one, figure out where that comes from, but secondly, actually then go, hold off, see if you actually like this person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because by the second, you might catch up with them the second time and like,
Not
this
sure.
person is not.
Yeah.
Like you remove any sort of sexual activity, this person's not my sort of person. So at least be able to connect properly. And by, as you said, that's funny. The third date for me was always
By
like
the third date, usually it shows up.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember the first date, if she's banging hot or you're like handsome as hell,
you got to hold back even more.
Like you've got to literally, you're like, that's intoxicating. You're like, oh God, like I can feel this, right? Because you can feel sexual energy. It's like, oh my God, like, and you're like, so you got to work past that.
Yeah.
Because if it's sexual energy, it doesn't last, right? You want sexual energy in the relationship, but you want connection because connection lasts. Sexual energy becomes different in a connected relationship, right? If you notice that when you've had sex with someone very quickly, it's like fireworks, great.
Yeah.
It's intense, yeah? And not to say that after the third date it's not going to be that intense, but what ends up happening is that over a year or 6 months, you've got sexual energy, but it's a deeper connection. It's a different feel. It feels like home. It feels like this is right. You can experiment, like it's different. So by the third date, I reckon if that's the person you sort of want to spend a bit of extra time with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Also in the early phases, is it okay to date multiple people? This is before you've slept with them.
Well, even if you haven't slept with them, I think what happens is that, and this is another conversation that people say to me, how can I ask that? And it's one of, do we agree to be monogamous or not? Okay, so that needs to be done very early on because a lot of people are serial daters and have a lot of people going all at one time, and there's nothing wrong with that. If it works for them, go for it. But if you're coming into a sort of exchange with somebody thinking, I want to date this person, and that person has 4 or 5 multiple people going at the same time, and you haven't been clear about what you want from this, they're going to continue to do that. You're going to create feelings for this, have feelings for this person, and you're going to find out, hang on, someone saw him down the road having a dinner with someone or having a drink with someone, and he's going to turn around and say to you, and I'm using guys as an excuse, but it goes both ways, and say, but like we aren't committed. Like we didn't have that conversation. Like I saw you twice, 3 times. We had 3 dates. Like
such a grey area unless you communicate.
You need to talk about it, and a lot of particular women. When I speak to women, and they're like, I'm like, have you had the exclusive conversation yet? And they're like, no. How could I do that? And I said, well, if you don't, you leave it a grey area. have the conversation of, look, I would like to see this be exclusive. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's where I'm sitting right now. And get it from them. If they can't answer, or if they're like, look, I'm not sure yet, you make an educated decision at that point how much you invest in that relationship. And don't hang around and hope that they change their mind. Unless you get it in words, not writing. Or you could get it in writing. But unless they say to you, I want to be exclusive with you, like I agree, I can't see you with someone else. I wouldn't like to share you. I'd like to be able to get to know you on your own. Then it's not exclusive. Definitely. Have the conversation.
Dr. Love, that was amazing. Love.
Dr. Lurve.
Best branding ever. So that was amazing. Thank you for coming on and sharing your own insight.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.